You're listening to Nothing Important.
We were up 250 feet at one point, and, that's the high plains up there, so unobstructed views in every direction. And I'm looking at electrical storms coming in, maybe 50 miles away. Like, you can see the lightning coming across the plains. I'm looking at these guys. I'm like, hey, we're on a friggin' lightning rod, dudes, And they're like, yeah, we got time. We'll be fine.
Please enjoy the show. That's great. That works.
This is the Nothing Important Podcast. My name is Brian, and with me, as always, is family Double Dare runner-up, Dave. Dave, how's it going today?
I got slimed.
And Mark Summers' personal assistant, Jeff. Jeff, how's it going, bud?
Clean and sterile.
Nice. Dave and I also host the It's All Good Men podcast, which I think Jeff might be joining us on this year. And you can find that at itsallgoodman.com. And of course, you can find Nothing Important at nothingimportantpodcast.com. Find, subscribe, rate, all that good stuff. Both shows on iTunes. It helps us a lot. Kind of an exciting day today for us in scheduled for 3 minutes, but we'll see how it goes. Mike Rowe is going to be calling into the show, and I'm pretty excited to chat with him for a bit, guys.
Yeah, I can't wait to ask him what his dirtiest job is.
Yeah.
Or if he actually is bald. Yeah.
Oh, it's going to be one of those days. Well, that's great. We're going to chat with Mike for about 15 minutes, and then, maybe we can chat for a little bit about other things and get rocking and rolling. We're kind of starting off 2017 pretty strong. Of course, recorded with Mike Rowe today, and over at It's All Good Men posted is our interview with the legendary Michael McKean, which I think went pretty well. It was hilarious because it was one of those things where, like, you could tell he's done so many interviews that he was just calling us because of our fans.
Right. Yeah, he was doing his fans a solid. Yeah.
Right. But I still think, it went pretty well, and he was very insightful, and, and then I think he went to see Star Wars after he chatted with us.
Yeah, too bad we didn't talk afterwards because I went and saw Star Wars.
Did you?
So did
I still am maintaining a 36-year streak of never seeing a single Star Wars.
Aren't you just proud?
Well, the thing is, it's not even like I have any real opposition to it. You know what I mean? Like, from everything I like, you would think that'd be right up my alley. But
yeah,
just
kind of. Honestly, for some reason, not really.
You don't think so?
I don't think you're into epic space battles.
Well, I don't know. I mean, yeah, but I'm like into sci-fi and nerdy stuff. Like I think what happened is just like it, for whatever reason, like I just never, as I was younger, just never saw them.
Mm-hmm.
Saw the original three, and then so it wasn't a big deal to me when I had the opportunity to see the second three. And now that I've made it this far, I think it's probably something I would probably watch if it was on TV. I'd probably stop and watch it, but I don't have any real emotional connection to it. So there's no real drive for me to be like, oh man, I should go watch that movie, especially since it's such a part of pop culture that I could probably tell you what happens in every Star Wars movie, and I get every Star Wars reference, even though I've never seen a Star Wars anything.
Right.
Yeah, so you have a unique experience possible of the an adult experiment. Do you watch, which ones do you watch first? Which trilogy do you watch first? Do you watch it in chronological order, or do you watch it in release order?
See? And this is how big it is in pop culture. I also know for a fact that there's some sort of fan regulated order where you watch them out of sequence, but it makes the story more concise and make more sense.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Usually it involves just leaving out the first one completely.
Oh, perfect.
Episode 1. All
right, gentlemen. Well, I believe this is Mike Rowe calling. One moment. All right, Jeff and Dave. Mike Rowe is on the Someone Important hotline.
Hi, Mike.
Hi, Mike.
Hey, guys, congratulate Brian, first of all. He didn't hang up on me. It's a big day.
Wow. We are amazed, actually.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm taking bows.
It's all about setting that bar low.
It's important to manage expectations, always.
Right. So, Mike, to continue the conversation before you called in, what do you think is the preferred order to watch the Star Wars movies?
I'm a sucker for chronology in all things. An increased thread of sanity can always be found by going back and reconnecting with the number.
I'm sorry, I'm breaking up on my end. Is anybody else breaking up?
Yeah, we're breaking up as well.
I call you on a cell phone because I'm calling you from a landline now. It's weird that wouldn't work.
Well, now it's clear. That hasn't broken up in the last minute.
Yeah. It's San Francisco.
Clear.
No, I mean, I'm telling you, it really is. I live in some weird little ionosphere, some weird little bubble, and all things electronic here typically kind of crap the bed at some point in time. And congratulations. That was it.
Is it an Indian burial ground alien landing site?
Wouldn't shock me. Wouldn't shock me at all.
Well, we don't have to revisit your order of Star Wars, but I think I got out of that you enjoy watching things chronologically, and therefore that's how you would watch it.
I enjoy all things chronologically. Every single thing I do makes better sense to me. You start at 0, go to 1, and proceed. No exceptions.
All right.
Awesome. Well, Mike, it's an absolute honor to have you on the show. As you can see, we're big fans. And I want to talk to you about several things. But first off, I kind of want to start with your podcast. That's the way I heard it.
Sure.
First off, it's awesome. And I guess my first question would be, who puts together the stories that you feature on that show?
Uh-oh.
And we killed it again.
Uh-oh.
Hello?
Yeah, I think we should go landline if that's possible.
Well, I'm going to leave the landline and call you on a...
that's what I meant.
Well,
oh, that's so backwards.
World I'm in. I'll call you right back.
All right, sir.
All right, here it comes.
All right.
Oh, that's awesome.
Hilarious.
All right, off to a good start.
Yeah, one of the most anticipated interviews in a minute in. We're technical difficulty.
All right, guys, we got Mike Rowe back.
Hi, Mike.
I'm back.
Fantastic.
I'm back.
Okay, and let the record show, I did not hang up on Mike Rowe twice in one show.
No. The record show that Mike's own limited technology and whatever electronic bubble he lives in is the culprit. Apologies.
Scratch San Francisco off the list of places to relocate to.
Dude, trust me. Do that.
So before we had the little snafu, we were talking about your podcast. That's the way I heard it, and I was wondering how you gathered the stories, because they're all short stories and phenomenally interesting.
Well, the first key, with any good idea, almost always is to steal it from someone. And I stole this from Paul Harvey.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you about that. That was my follow-up.
There you go. No, look, you guys know there are no good ideas left in the world, or at least no original ideas.
Right.
And when I was a kid, and really not so much of a kid, Paul Harvey, he was like always there. He did a thing called The Rest of the Story.
Mm-hmm.
And, they were basically biographies and little history lessons wrapped in mystery. So, I just remember so many times driving around in my crappy little car and listening to these things and getting to where I was going, but being unable to get out of the car until I heard the end of the story so I could know who the hell he'd been talking about.
Right. Yep.
So I just kind of thought last year, the whole podcast world is pretty interesting. A lot of people doing 1 and these 2-hour shows, and I think that's great, but I didn't have time, and most of the people I know don't have a ton of time to listen. So I thought, 5-minute stories, if we can write them well and just it's not about finding interesting subjects. It's about finding something interesting that happened in their life, because most people are not nearly as interesting as you think, but everybody had something interesting happen to them.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the end.
Sure.
Yeah, that's great. Man, that was totally my follow-up. I was going to try to impress everybody with my knowledge of Paul Harvey, but I guess it really wouldn't be secret knowledge because the dude was infamously famous. No, that's wonderful, but it's highly entertaining, and anybody out there listening, I encourage you to check it out because once you're starting season 2 soon, right? You're actually doing seasons on the show.
Well, you know what? I'm a TV guy, and so I don't know how podcasts really work, but we did 34 tests, like these little, weekly things last year. And I really had no idea. I was just throwing them out there. But, people who know called back and said, hey, 10 million people listen to this. You should do it again. So, wow. I'm calling it season 2, but I don't know what it means, but yeah, season 2, January 10th.
For us, it's usually like we kind of ran out of time and had to take a little break. So to justify coming back, we just say, all right, new season. Let's do something a little different.
Yeah, we're back. Yeah, season 45. Well, you know what? It's funny. That's what they did with Dirty Jobs. And, you'll see networks do this all the time. We probably shot, people always say, how many did you do? And I say, well, we did 300. Because we did 300 jobs, and in my head, that's the only thing that mattered. But in the production company's head, they was like, no, we did 179 episodes. In the network's head, it's like, no, we did 8.5 seasons. So whatever, it just comes down to the advertisers. They'll tell you how many you did.
Wherever the money's coming from.
That show, I believe, was such a phenomenal success because while watching you on it seemed like, well, one, you genuinely enjoyed the challenge, but you, especially with the Micro Works Foundation and such, you seem to have a real affinity for,
trades.
Workers, for trades. Absolutely. And I was wondering if you can expound on that, like why such the passion for trades? Not that I disagree by any means, but you seem really passionate about getting people involved.
Well, I mean, the short answer is because I'm screwed without them. In a professional sense, my business revolves around people who are willing to do the kinds of jobs that make civilized life possible, But on a personal level, it's funny, the TV's powerful, and people watch that show, and the first thing they assume, because they see a guy in a ball cap with his sleeves rolled up doing work, that I'm some sort of handyman or apologist for blue collar America, and the bigger truth of all that is I'm just a fan. I am in awe, as I always have been, of people who wake up clean and come home dirty, and somewhere along the course of their day fix a problem that I can't fix. And I think that probably came from my pop. My granddad built the house I was built in without a blueprint. He only went to the 7th grade, but he was a master electrician by the time he was 30, and a carpenter, and a steam fitter, and a pipe fitter, and a mechanic. And, he just had that chip in the back of his head that some people have that allow them to take a watch apart or a combustion engine and then put it back together. And I can't do that. The gene is totally recessive, in my case anyway. So really, Dirty Jobs started as a tribute to him and guys like him. And Micro Works only happened, 5 years into the show because when the economy went sideways in 2009, everybody I met on the show was complaining about the same thing, which was they couldn't find anybody to hire. There were help wanted signs all over the place, which was weird because, the headlines were all talking about 11% unemployment and all the jobs were gone.
Right.
And so here on Dirty Jobs, everywhere I go, people are hiring. And so I just started thinking, I think there's something else going on in the country. I think there's another narrative out there that nobody really talks about. And that's the existence of literally millions of jobs that people aren't excited about doing. And it's not just because they're dirty or crappy. It's really because they don't know about them and we just don't celebrate them. So that's a pretty windy answer to your 2-part question. I did the show because my grandfather was amazing, and I do Micro Works because without plumbers and electricians, I'm kind of helpless.
That's okay. Windy answers are awesome because I got like 15 minutes to fill, so that's cool. But I totally feel where you're coming from, though, because previous to my current profession, I was a hotel general manager, like running Marriott level hotels and such. And all three of us on this show, we have a couple buddies who construct cell phone towers. That's what they do all day, is climb and twist bolts on cell phone towers and lay the foundations. And I'll go out for beers with them, and I just keep asking them about their job. And they think my job at the time as a hotel manager was interesting. I'm like, yeah, but dude, like, you're like climbing towers and stuff. Like, I wish I could do that, because if my wife asked me to, like, put a new door handle on the door, I'm calling them to be like, dude, could you come over and tighten these screws? Because I'm just
yeah. Well, a couple things. The last dirty jobs we did was a cell phone tower profile up in Dickinson, North Dakota, and you're right. Those guys are just cut out of a completely different cloth. I mean, we were up 250 feet at one point, and that's the high plains up there, so unobstructed views in every direction. And I'm looking at electrical storms coming in, maybe 50 miles away. Like, you can see the lightning coming across the plains. I'm looking at these guys. I'm like, hey, we're on a freaking lightning rod, dudes. And they're like, yeah, we got time. We'll be fine. It's a totally different mindset. And the really interesting thing, you would think, what's a coal miner have in common with a cell phone tower worker, or with a skull cleaner, or with a roughneck or a roustabout? And the answer is pretty funny, because all those guys at some point, whenever I meet them, they all pull me aside and they say, hey man, love your show, watch this, watch that, but how in the hell did you ever do septic tank worker? And I tell them, and then I meet the septic tank worker, and they say, hey man, love your show, really fun, but how the hell did you ever do coal mining? And so everybody in their head has a list of things that they simply would never do. And Dirty Jobs was kind of interesting, because in the aggregate, we touched on everybody's list.
Yeah,
that's great.
Nice. Did you pick up any skills by being on all those shows? I mean, you said you're not handy.
Well, I mean, I'm not utterly incompetent, but it doesn't come naturally or easy to me. That's the
okay.
That's the big anybody can get better at a trade. And
so the next time I need to put a doorknob on my door instead of calling my friends, I can call Mike Rowe.
Oh, you can call me. I'm not coming. You got my number now. You got both my numbers. Call me anytime.
Turn the screw clockwise. Turn the screw clockwise. There you go.
Well, it's funny if you watch do-it-yourself TV and FYI, and there are all these networks and all these shows that the whole underlying premise is, hey, you can do it yourself. Let us show you how. And my feeling has always been, no, don't do it yourself. Don't put that ceiling fan in yourself. Don't do it. Don't run cable. There are 1,000 ways to die, and none of them are pleasant. And that's why they're experts out there. Call somebody who knows what they're doing.
Awesome. Mike, before we let you go and all that good stuff, I believe Dave had a question he wanted to ask.
Yeah, I was actually very intrigued about your transition from an opera singer into television, and there's a brief story on your Wikipedia page, doing my due diligence. And I was wondering if you could kind of elaborate on that story, because a lot of the people we talk to, we find very fascinating how they got their start in the industry.
Well, for me, I was 22 back in 1984, and I just graduated from college, and I wanted to get in television, and I couldn't get my union card. And I'm talking about the Screen Actors Guild back in those days. Mm-hmm. You couldn't do union work unless you had a card, and you couldn't get your union card unless you had done union work. So it was kind of this weird, I was just shut out of the industry. And I found a loophole, which basically involved the opera. The opera was overseen by a guild called AGMA, the American Guild of Musical Artists. And if you could get your AGMA card, you could buy your Screen Actors Guild card with their sister unions, right? So for me, it was simpler to impersonate an opera singer than it was a TV star. So I learned an aria, the shortest one I could find from La Boheme. I memorized it after listening to it for like a week on, a Walkman. And I went to an open audition and I sang this aria, and they said that was terrible. And I said, thank you. And they said, look, you have kind of an interesting voice, and I was young and I had a low voice, and they had an opening and they said, look, let's see how it works. So the whole idea was just to do one performance, get my union card, buy my other union card, and leave, because I didn't know anything about opera. But what ultimately happened was it turned out to be a lot more fun than I thought. The music was better than I thought, and I wound up digging it. There's also, I don't know how much you know about opera, but my repertory company had 80 people in it, and 45 of them were women, and 35 of them were guys. And of the 35 guys, 30 of them had zero interest in 100% of the women. And
that's a great way to put that.
Of the remaining 5, 3 were married. So it was me and another guy with a mole on his eyelid the size of my thumb, with all this hair coming out of it, And so I was basically the only single straight guy in the opera chorus. And so, for 7 years, I stuck around and made new friends. It was a kick.
Playing with a stacked deck there.
Well, you fish where the fish are, right?
Exactly.
Well, Mike, that's an absolutely awesome story. Thank you so much for coming on the Nothing Important podcast. Everybody out there, please make sure to check out, that's the way I heard it, Mike Rowe's podcast. And Mike, if you have any upcoming projects or your Twitter or anything you'd like to plug, throw it out there, my friend.
Well, Facebook is the place where I go these days. It's an absolute blast. I got 5 million friends there, and that's about the only 4 or 5 times a week I go there just to kind of weigh in and see if we can keep the conversation lively. But it's been a blast. New show coming up next year, but I'm not sure where it's going to air this year. I mean, so I'll check back with you guys in a couple of months. But there's a ton of stuff going on.
Cool. Awesome. Well, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear from you again in the future. And ladies and gentlemen, Mike Rowe.
Thanks, fellas. Have a good one.
All right, guys, that was Mike Rowe. Super cool, chill, down-to-earth dude.
Yeah, that was...
Yeah, very, very much like you see him on television.
Yeah, genuine, authentic, which is... Keep saying it. Anyone that's going to come on our show is probably going to be like that, and the successful people are usually the authentic people.
So, exactly.
Yeah, it's just
I love
great reassurance.
Absolutely, and I love that you asked him about the opera singer thing, because I was curious about that myself, and that's awesome that that was his way in.
Yeah, and I've heard this. I've heard this before about people finding creative ways to get your SAG card, because it's true. You have to have a gig to get the card. You have to have the card to get the gig. So people find these loopholes and stuff. And somebody had mentioned when I said, oh, we're talking Mike Rowe, and they're like, oh, yeah, I heard he used to be an opera singer. My first thought was, well, with that voice, no shit.
Oh, well, that's awesome. All right, gentlemen. So glad to talk to you. First podcast of 2017. I hope everybody out there enjoyed our chat with the wonderful Mike Rowe. You can find us at nothingimportantpodcast.com. You can also find us over at It's All Good Man, where we're starting off 2017 with Chuck McGill himself, Michael McKean. So please make sure to check that out. Make sure to subscribe, tell your friends, share on Twitter, all that good stuff. Dave, you can stop recording.
Be sure to follow Nothing Important online at nothingimportantpodcast.com. Find us on iTunes, on Twitter at NotImportantPC, and you can also find us on Facebook. Nothing Important is recorded with help from Third City Sound in Joliet, Illinois. Thanks for being awesome.